Ave Maris Stella.
Hello and welcome back to Vatican II in a Year. This is your host, Father Matthew Schneider. I am a priest of the Missionaries of Christ and I teach theology. This is a podcast on the StarQuest Production Network at sqpn.com. Today we're on day 261 and we're covering Ad Gentes paragraph 25 on forming missionaries with good theology. If you want to follow along, we have a reading plan and more details at sqpn.com/Vatican or frmatthewlc.com/Vatican. If you were following along yesterday, we talked about how missionaries are a special call within the call of all people and all people's duty to evangelize. And it is a response to God and includes all of Jesus, not just the nice parts, but including the cross. Today, we are going to continue with chapter 4, which is on missionaries. And the summary of today is that missionaries need to be formed and have virtues and a spiritual life appropriate to the mission, which also includes that good theology we mentioned before. So paragraph 25 has two subparagraphs. That's all we're going to read today. 25a, missionaries should have certain virtues and a good spiritual life. And B, training should lead to these missionary virtues. So let's read them. A, for such an exalted task, the future missionary is to be prepared by a special spiritual and moral training. For he must have the spirit of initiative in the beginning, as well as that of constancy in carrying through what he has begun. He must persevere in difficulties, patient, strong of heart, in bearing with solitude, fatigue, and fruitless labor. He will encounter men with an open mind and wide heart. He will gladly take up the duties which are entrusted to him. He will, with a noble spirit, adapt himself to the people's foreign way of doing things and to changing circumstances. While in the spirit of harmony and mutual charity, he will cooperate with his brethren and all who dedicate themselves to the same task, so that together with the faithful, there will be one heart and one soul. Confer Acts 2 and 4. An imitation of the apostolic community. So this paragraph has three sentences, which are kind of the outline of the paragraph. That first one is we need that spiritual or moral training. And this really refers kind of to what we talk about as spiritual formation in priestly training, because obviously a lot of these priests are going to be a lot of these missionaries are going to be priests. And while some are religious and so similar type training, and then even lay people, they need to have that spiritual and moral training. So they have the right moral thing. They have a spiritual life. They have that deep relationship with God. And it's not just going out there and burning themselves out. So 2 is talking about the second sentence talking about the virtues needed in missions. You need that creativity and initiative to start off, new ideas, new things, because we go into new situations, new circumstances, we might need to try new things. But then also they need that perseverance and patience, because a lot of times it's through those years or decades of keeping doing that happens. And our third sentence here is about a noble spirit, an open heart to others, right? It talks about open mind and a wide heart to others. What do we have that? And that's charity with working with others. Because as a missionary, you're going to be working with others, both who are also missionaries with you and with the local people who are going to have different customs. And it's really important to adapt yourself to those foreign customs, not to always be this foreigner coming in from another part. So 25b talks about training leading to those missionary virtues. Let's read it. B, these habits of mind should be earnestly exercised already in his time of training. They should be cultivated and should be uplifted and nourished by the spiritual life. In view of the living faith and a hope that never fails, the missionary should be a man of prayer. Let him have an ardent spirit of power and of love and of prudence. Confer 2 Timothy 1. Let him learn to be self-sufficing in whatever circumstances. Philippians 4. Always bearing about in himself the dying of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may work in those to whom he is sent. 2 Corinthians 4. Out of zeal for souls, let him gladly spend all and be spent himself for souls. Confer 2 Corinthians 12. So that by daily practice of his duty he may grow in love of God and neighbor. Thus, obedient to the will of the Father together with Christ, he will continue his mission under the hierarchical authority of the church. So this paragraph starts with that idea of we need to train them. We need to start these virtues, start these spiritual life from training. And some of the things can be very practical. I remember one of the priests in my community, he had a friend who was joining a missionary order and going to be a missionary in a very a less developed part of the world. And this young man got an electric razor before he arrived. And as the priest or brother, whatever, who was going through his stuff as he arrived, asked him, well, why do you have this? And he's like, well, what tree are you going to plug that into when you go on missions? And so he wasn't allowed to have an electric razor because you have to be ready to work with the type of things you can work with in those missions, even while you're in the seminary. And that's a good idea. And so this is also the important thing to think that nobody comes to the seminary or to a missionary school perfectly formed. We don't have angels showing up to the seminary door. No, we have young men who are in that situation. And so with that, we need to help them, and we need to help them in formation. We don't just give intellectual formation. In Pastoris Dabo Vobis, the document of John Paul II on priestly formation, which is then brought out in things like the program for priestly formation in the U.S., it talks about 4 areas. Intellectual, which is like all that theology, all that philosophy. Spiritual, learning to pray. Human, learning those kind of virtues like this and learning good etiquette and things like that. And then apostolic, learning to go out to do missions and things like that. And I think those 4 areas can be applied to missionaries as well. Obviously, the types they're going to talk about with missions, the exact kind of virtues you're going to form would be slightly different for somebody trained to be a diocesan priest, somebody trained to be a religious priest who's going to work here in a school or other thing in his own culture, and somebody trained to be a foreign missionary. And with this, what do we have as the first priority? The first priority is our prayer life. If as a priest, as a missionary, you don't pray, everything else falls apart. But prayer gives everything else its meaning. And so we have Jesus' this virtue of prayer, this model of prayer, and a model of virtue as well. He's a prudential, he's self-sacrificing. That's the idea we want priests to have. That's what we want to do it. We don't want to be, I'm just going to go out and do it myself. No, I'm going to do it in union with Jesus through prayer, imitating Jesus in my virtues. And then we do it in union with the hierarchy. We are not sent by ourselves. We do not have a mission unto ourselves, but we have a mission in the church, in the hierarchy. So thank you for listening to this episode of Vatican II in a Year. This is a listener-supported podcast, and you can donate to help StarCrest produce it and other great podcasts at sqpn.com/give. You can give one-time monthly join the StarCrest Patreon. Tomorrow we're going to continue with the next paragraph of Ad Gentes, which is paragraph 26, on training for all the roles in being a missionary. Please don't understand to learn more about Vatican II, which can provide a blueprint for the Catholic Church. Go to sqpn.com/Vatican, frmatthewlc.com/Vatican, or Vatican SQPN on Facebook and X for more information on the podcast, like playlists for individual documents and a reading plan. Amen.